Box Free with Stephanie. Today I want to show you how to make some basic foods with simple ingredients from scratch. And I hope that you can discover cooking box free is fast and delicious. So let's cook together. Today we are going to make pudding, because to me pudding is one of those things that everybody just assumes you have to make it from a box, and you totally don't. Mac and cheese and pudding are two things that everybody buys in a box, and they're just really simple to make from scratch and just so much better. So today I want to make chocolate pudding first, and then I'm going to make butterscotch pudding. So let's just get started. Puddings are very easy. There's just a few ingredients to them. So first thing we're going to do is add 2/3 of a cup of sugar into a medium saucepan, because we're going to cook this on the stove. So there's my 2/3 cup. Then we're going to do a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. A brand new one here. Okay. So a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. About like that. And then cornstarch is your thickener when you're making homemade pudding. So we're going to do 3 tablespoons. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and then we just need about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Not too much. Okay, so we're going to just whisk this up to get all of our cocoa and our flour combined with our cornstarch. Then we're going to add milk and put it on the stove, and it's really fast. You basically just have to wait for it to come to a boil. All right, so we're going to add 2 1/4 cups of milk. I like to use whole milk. I mean, I cook with whole milk and use it anyway, but I think that for puddings it's really nice because it gives you just a richer flavor, and I think the full fat in the whole milk makes your pudding kind of stabilize better almost. Okay, so that's a 1/4 cup. So that's my 2 1/4 cups of milk. So I'm going to put this on my pan, my stove I mean, and we're going to combine this really well with a whisk. You really have to whisk it nicely because you want your dry powdery stuff to get mixed into all of your milk. And then it will become really kind of frothy on the top. And that's okay. That doesn't last forever. So you're going to just sit and stir this. The first couple minutes I think are really important, because again you want to make sure you don't have any lumps in your dry ingredients, and because you've just added your milk, you need to just whisk it quite vigorously to about like that. So whatever, a minute of whisking is not that big of a deal. And then you get all these kind of frothy bubbles like that. And that's fine. They'll eventually become part of the pudding. So now what we're going to do is basically just stand here and stir. Pudding is something that you really do have to stir quite often, because you don't want it to burn on the bottom, and you want it to, as it's thickening, you want all of the pudding to thicken together. You don't want just the bottom layer to thicken. So it takes about 15 or 20 minutes, and to me that's the hardest thing about pudding, is just waiting for it, because it already smells so good and chocolatey. And so I'm going to just sit here and whisk this. If you are making supper, usually I do this while I'm preparing my supper, you can walk away for 2 or 3 minutes and come back and whisk it and stir it. So it's not like you have to stand here constantly for 20 minutes. But there are days, like sometimes I actually get a little bar stool and I just like sit down next to the stove and just kind of relax and stir my chocolate pudding and whatever. It doesn't seem that hard, I guess. So we just wait, and we're going to probably come back, because this isn't very exciting to watch. But what you'll do is just sit here and stir it every minute or two. Give it a good stirring and make sure you touch the bottom to get anything that is on the bottom. Oh my gosh, there was a big chunk I just missed. Did you guys see that? There were like all these little coconut particles that came up that I missed right here. So that's what you don't want to have happen. You want to make sure that everything is together, blended together. And you can see already my frothy bubbles are kind of dissipating because it really doesn't last long. Once it starts to heat up, the bubbles go away. And you are waiting for your milk to basically come to a boil. You really don't want a fast, crazy boil, but you do actually boil it for 1 minute once it starts to boil. So again, you are just waiting for it to heat up. So we'll come back in about 10 or 15 minutes. Once I'm close to my boil, so you can see what that looks like. But you just whisk it every couple minutes. Okay, we're back. It's only been about 7 or 8 minutes that I've been stirring, and not constantly, but it's already getting to be really thick. You can see that it's becoming like pudding thickness. So, and you can see the steam coming off. Once your milk actually gets hot enough in your pan, then you'll start to see the steam, and that's kind of when your cornstarch goes to work and starts thickening your pudding. So now what I'm going to wait, you can see the bubbles, okay? I'm going to let it boil about a minute. And then all I'm going to do is take it off the heat, add vanilla and butter, and then your pudding is done. I mean, it's like super fast. So today, I don't know if my little pan was just a little bit extra hot, but it did not take 20 minutes. Most times it does take 15 or 20 minutes, and maybe I should just turn my heat up and get it faster. But the problem with having it too hot, too fast, is that you don't want your pudding to burn, because this is delicious chocolate pudding. And the thing I like about homemade chocolate pudding is it actually tastes like chocolate. Like, I don't know, I just don't like the fakey flavor of boxed stuff. So this is a really delicious pudding. And again, super fast and really simple ingredients. So we are almost done with our 1 minute of boiling. And then we're gonna just take it off and add the vanilla. Again, you don't want to add vanilla when you're on the heat because it's an alcohol extract and it kind of just burns it right off. So you always add your vanilla after you take it off the heat. Okay, that's been about a minute, and you can see it's still bubbling nicely, but it's nice and thick like you would expect a pudding to be. So I'm going to push this up here, bring this here. I need 2 tablespoons of butter. There's 1, there's 2. One thing I do like to do is add my butter, and because this is so hot that when I add my vanilla right now, it almost like bubbles away anyway. So I like to give it just a minute off the heat, and my chunk of butter takes a minute. Well, plus my butter's kind of cold right now, so it takes a minute just to melt my butter, and then I'm going to add my teaspoon of vanilla, and then you can either cool it in the pan like I'm going to today, or you can pour it into heat-proof dishes. You just don't want to pour this into like fine, like these are what I'm going to actually serve it in later, but I want this to cool because I don't think this glass can take this hot, hot pudding. So I'm going to cool it in the pan first and then pour it in my lovely serving dishes. So let's add our teaspoon of vanilla, like that. And then the other thing I do when I'm cooling homemade puddings is I put saran wrap on the top to avoid that skin, that kind of hard skin, because this stuff is so like gorgeously smooth. I don't want that skin on the top of my pudding. Okay, that's it, like super fast. I mean, that was really quick. So now I'm going to kind of scrape my sides down, and then I'm going to put saran wrap on the top. Again, just for the skin. If you don't want to do this part, you don't have to. I never like putting plastic on my super hot food like this. I mean, I'm just not into that, but I don't know, it never seems to melt it, and it always works. So you just kind of place it on top, and you don't have to get it so perfect, just like that. Well, you can't really, yeah, like that. So you let this sit for, I don't know, 20 or 30 minutes, and then you can put it in your fancy dishes. All right, so we are just gonna put this right here, let that cool, and now we're going to make butterscotch pudding. And butterscotch pudding is really delicious. It's really rich. Like, it has more sugar than my chocolate pudding does. So to me, I don't make it as often because it's just too rich, honestly. Like, I don't know, it's so sweet. So, but it is absolutely delicious, I think. Okay, so let's just start. We need 1.5 cups of dark brown sugar. And again, just like when you're making anything caramely or butterscotchy, the dark brown sugar, I don't have enough, the dark brown sugar just gives it that extra rich caramel flavor in my opinion. So let's see if I can do this here. Get a full cup. Okay, that's 1 cup, so you put this in a pan. I need another ½ a cup. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, so I got my whisk clean for my chocolate pudding, and then I need a 1/4 cup of corn starch again. All right, I'm almost out of this. Boy. I'm gonna call that done and get my new one. Okay, let's see how messy. Oh boy. Ah, well, that's all right. Whoa. Oh my gosh. Okay, cornstarch is kind of a wicked thing to cook with because of this, and like it's just so like sticky. It just is really kind of messy. But that's okay. Cleans up easily, so no big deal. All right, and then we need just a ½ a teaspoon of salt. Okay, so now we're gonna whisk this together. Again, this whole idea is to get your cornstarch and your sugar blended before you add your milk, which I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter, but you certainly don't want your cornstarch to be lumpy, and so because that's what gives you the lumps in your pudding and anytime you use cornstarch. So it's worth a minute just to whisk it together like this. It's not that big of a deal. Okay. But this one now is going to call for 3 cups of milk compared to 2 1/4 for our chocolate. And then butterscotch pudding also has egg yolks in it. So my chocolate pudding is just an egg-free recipe. I've had it for years. I don't know where it came from. But pudding a lot of times does have egg in it, and my butterscotch pudding has egg. So for whatever reason, my chocolate pudding does not. So before I do my milk, I'm going to do my eggs. So for this, you only need egg yolks. So because I need 4 egg yolks, I'm going to have 4 egg whites left over. But I really don't think I want 4 egg whites in one container because I don't know how I'd really use 4 eggs at one time. Because what I do with this is I make muffins with it or pancakes or whatever. So this way, we're just gonna, all right, so that goes, oh wait, I need to get a bowl, hang on. Okay, so we're gonna put these in a separate bowl. I forgot about that. Okay, anyway, my point is I don't wanna have 4 egg whites in a bowl. I wanna have 2, so I'm gonna separate them out because then when I go to make muffins in a day or 2, I'll just use my 2 egg whites instead of 1 egg for my recipe. So that's how you can kind of use up your, you can use your egg whites. I mean, it's totally silly to throw them away. That's ridiculous. So you just save them. And again, you could put all 4 into one container and then just make an egg white omelet or something. But I just know I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to do it this way. And then I'll have 2 egg whites. Okay. So again, when you're using the egg yolks, it's not such a big deal if you get a little bit of egg white in there. It's when you're making the meringues that you can't have any egg yolk. But we're not doing meringue, so it's no big deal. Okay, so now I have in here my 4 egg yolks, and now I'm going to combine my milk. So this takes 3 cups of milk. And you could maybe just combine all this into your pan if you want to skip this step, but I don't know, my recipe says to combine them, and I just feel like getting those egg yolks blended into the liquid is a good thing. Like you do want to get that done. So whatever, it doesn't take very long. So I'm going to just kind of bang up my egg yolks, set my egg whites over here, use those tomorrow. Okay, so that's all you got to do, just like that. All right, my pan is hot. So now that my egg yolks are mixed into my milk, I'm just going to combine these 2 and then we're going to throw them on the stove. So pudding is really, really easy. And you can get all fancy and make like parfaits, and yeah, I can talk about that when I serve it up, I guess. But All right, so now we are going to cook this just like we did our chocolate pudding. And the butterscotch pudding comes together really fast. So this is almost like a quicker thing to make, but again, it's a little bit richer and for my taste, so I prefer the chocolate pudding better, but this is just a really yummy, yummy thing to eat too. And this one I usually I don't usually serve anything. I don't like whipped cream with it or whatever. I guess I just like the plain pudding. Okay, so you see how this also has that frothy bubble, and again, that's just because we're whipping so much air into it with our whisk. And I think you really do need a whisk for these puddings because you really need to get them smooth. Okay, so now we're just going to wait for this to come to a boil. No, actually, no, you don't really need it to boil the way you do your chocolate. This, you just wait for it to basically thicken to a pudding consistency. Take it off, add butter, and then you're done. Well, then you got to put it through a sieve, but you're done, basically. It's really fast. So I like this recipe because it is just really fast. You just stir your stuff, it thickens up in the pan, and boom, you're done. So, and again, you can walk away for a minute or two and come back and just check your bottom of your pan. You want it all thickened kind of at the same time. And once it's been cooking for about 5 minutes, or 5 or 10, it's a little bit more important to stir it more often, because right now, I don't even have any steam coming up. My milk is still so cold that it's not cooking too much. So this is the time I could go, you know, wash dishes or do something else really quick in the kitchen. But later on, I need to be a little more attentive. Okay, so we're gonna let that just sit, and I'll come back in a couple minutes. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes since my butterscotch pudding has been cooking. It's still really frothy because I'm stirring it so much and it's getting a lot of air in it. But again, those will all go away once it thickens up. But in the meantime, I'm going to serve my chocolate pudding. So this has been here, it's still, you know, plenty warm, but now I know my glasses will be okay. So I'm going to pull this off and put it into my dishes. So this is kind of messy, but that's all right. Okay, so I'm going to stir it gently just to make sure any of the stuff on the top gets mixed in. And then you just try to do this as nicely as you can. These are my nice fancy little dishes, so I'm going to try to keep the sides clean. And whoops, that did not work. Okay. But this is where you can add, if you wanted to add sliced bananas, I do quite often. Oh my gosh, wow, I'm really making a mess. If you want to do sliced bananas in here, I do that sometimes. Or if you made whipped cream, you have to let it cool if you're going to do like a parfait, because otherwise, obviously this is like still really hot, it's steaming, that it would melt your whipped cream. But if you let this chill in the fridge for like 2 or 3 hours, then you can come back in a nice tall glass and make these gorgeous parfaits with the white and the black and the white and the black or whatever. Okay, so I'm going to finish this off. Whoopsie, hang on, I got to stir this. It's been about a minute or two. So I could feel a little bit of it sticking to the bottom, but I mean, not bad. But that's what you feel if you don't stir it constantly. Okay, there's that. Now we'll go back to my not so pretty decorative glasses. No, I'll clean them all up and they'll look beautiful when I serve them. It's fun to have little pretty dishes to put your desserts in, I feel like. I don't know. I mean, a custard cup or a bowl is fine too, but I like to jazz it up a little bit, put them in a fancy cup. So this is kind of a lot of pudding, but I'm almost done, so I'm going to try to just, I don't know, get it all in here. I'm probably not going to make it happen, but... So if you were adding whipped topping, darn, there I go again. Okay, so I have about that much pudding left over. So you could say that this makes a serving of 5 if you are doing anything this or smaller. Hang on, I got to stir this again. Okay. And then with this now, these are still a little too hot to eat, so I would definitely say you want to wait, you know, a good 30 to 45 minutes before you serve your chocolate pudding. We do eat it warm sometimes, but like not this hot. This is too hot. So I'm just cleaning up my little dishes here, especially this one. So it's a bummer when you get like that on there and that, you know, like I don't want even that to be on my little dish, but whatever. Today's just not going to be maybe so perfect. And my gosh, that's fine. Once they taste it, they're not even going to care what it looks like because it just tastes really good. But I'm going to get all that off of there. Okay, so there is my chocolate pudding. And, oh boy. Okay, so you could serve these just like this, but not yet. You got to wait a little bit. Or you could put chocolate shavings on them. You could put chopped pecans. Whoops, I got to stir my thing. You can jazz it up however you want to, whatever your family happens to like. I don't do things like raspberries because they're so juicy, but I think they'd be okay. But yeah, whatever you want to do with it. So I'm going to let these just cool for a little bit longer. Well, actually, it's a couple hours before we're going to eat them. So today we're going to eat them nice and chilled. But my point that I was saying a few minutes ago is that if you let these cool like a half hour, 45 minutes, and then you eat them, it's a really nice warm pudding. And that's really good. And so is the butterscotch. Really good when it's like a warm pudding. Okay, I'll be back in a couple minutes when this is thickened. Okay, my butterscotch pudding has like, boom, thickened, just like that. It's kind of cool. With this one, that seems to be how it happens. It just seems to take like, whoopsie. I set my timer since I keep forgetting to stir. This seems to take a while to heat up, but then once it does, like it just thickens like that. Okay, so what I want to do is stir this until I get all my bubbles incorporated. And then because we have an egg in this recipe, we have to actually put it through a sieve. I have kind of cheated before and not actually put it through the sieve, and it's amazing. Like, okay, we're getting a little crazy. I think we're going to call that done. Because this has an egg in it, you will be amazed at how tiny these little egg chunks can get. So it is really important to pour it through a sieve. And it's really crazy how fast it works. So here we go. We're going to pour it in. These are our serving dishes that are heat resistant. So, boy, I don't know if I can do this way. I'll try. So it goes right through. And look at how beautiful and smooth that is. Oh my gosh, it's just so good, you guys. Okay, and then this one. So this step is really important because, I don't know, there's just these teeny tiny little chunks, and when you put it through here, I kind of shake it like that just to get it out. When you put it through here, it is just amazingly smooth. Oh my gosh, it's like the best pudding ever. And just super easy. I mean, brown sugar, milk, and cornstarch is like all it is. So anyway, this is certainly not a low sugar recipe, but for a treat, and if your kids love butterscotch pudding, this is so much better and healthier than box stuff. So you'll have to just try it and see what they think. And then the nice thing is if you do this the right way, you can actually serve this up into these pans without getting anything on the sides because you are using the sieve. So you can kind of direct where it goes. Even though I messed up on that one. Whoopsie, almost did it again. There's that. And this one, because it has 3 cups of milk, just makes a little more pudding, as you can see, which is fine because, again, you put any extra pudding in the fridge and then you have it the next day. And I've had mine in the fridge for, I don't know, like 5 days or something. And after that, it's usually gone. Oh, I know, when I did it last time, it was in the fridge for like long time, like 5 or 6 days. And what I noticed, I should tell you, is that it almost started to separate. The butterscotch pudding did, which really isn't that big of a deal. I just stirred it up with my little spoon and then you eat it. So it doesn't really affect it, but just so you're aware of that if you keep it around the house long enough, which normally we don't. But okay, so I have one more. Oh, I know, I'll do it this way. Okay. So because butterscotch this pudding recipe is so rich, this one I think would be kind of a good idea to do the whipped cream on it, but like not a sweet whipped cream. You certainly don't want to add a lot of sugar when you're whipping your cream for this one, because you want that cream to almost cut the sweetness in this recipe, I think. Okay, so this now, usually what I do is put these on a tray or a plate or something and then put saran wrap over the whole thing so that they also don't get the skin. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. But before I do that, let's just taste each of them. Whoopsie. Okay. So the butterscotch is really hot, but that's okay. I'm going to taste it and see how delicious it is. Oh my gosh, it's just so rich and delicious. And then I'm going to sneak into this one. Oh, you can see the skin, how I'm creating a little bit of skin because it was just still so hot. But this will have to be mine tonight. I'm telling you, that chocolate pudding is just so good. It's like not super sweet the way this one is, but they're both just absolutely delicious. So, thank you for watching Box Free with Stephanie. I hope you enjoyed the show. I really hope you make pudding from scratch because it is really fast and easy and absolutely delicious, and I hope your family loves it. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.